Thai capital. The government had set a deadline for the elderly, women and children to leave, but that was ignored by the red shirts. 36 people have died since violence broke out on Thursday. Tony Bertley has more.
The Pathamwaram Buddhist temple in the centre of Bangkok, a religious site revered and respected. It is in the heart of the main red shirt zone, and all sides recognise this as a place of non-violence. People have come here for a degree of safety, but not to comply with the government deadline to leave. Most said they intend to stay no matter what the consequences. This woman, who didn't want to be named, said she is ready to risk the lives of her children for the red shirt cause.
I'm prepared to risk their lives and my own, because our fight is one for justice and democracy, and we have to make a stand.
Relatively few, though, have sought the temple sanctuary. Thousands more are still outside, living under a highway and the threat of a military crackdown. There may be apprehension, but there is also a mood of defiance.
Until they will kill them, they will not go from this area. They will stay here together. Nobody control them. They can decide it by themselves. I'm sure they have their own opinion. They have their own idea. Nobody control them.
There is anger too because of the bloodshed. Red shirt supporters held a 1-minute silence Monday for General Katia, the renegade army officer who turned against the military and has died after being shot by a sniper. A war on the streets and a war of words still raging between the government and the red shirt leadership. Both sides are suffering internal problems. For the outside world, though, their message doesn't change.
The protesters need to stop rioting against our people. When the situation eases and there is no further damage to the country and no impact to the safety of people, the government is ready to carry on the reconciliation plan.
Thailand will return to normality if the government's sincere and stops shooting and takes responsibility for what's happened and enters the legal process.
But there is still shooting on the streets. Here, residents taking cover as volleys of shots are fired, and some soldiers are obviously jittery.
We just heard something of a gun battle down the road here. Hundreds of shots being fired. We're not sure exactly what kind of ammunition was being used, but there was some intensive movement by the army. But now it seems to have settled down, and that's indicative of what's been happening the last few days. A bout of gunfire, and then everything goes calm. The question is, how long will that remain the case?
Hardcore red shirt protesters are still engaged in a standoff with the military. Daily street battles are still happening, but they're confined to a few areas of the city. But in tense situations, one wrong move could spell disaster and lead to something greater. The military is trying to tighten its grip in areas of confrontation, but many of the soldiers have relatives who sympathise with the red shirts, and some are actually involved on the streets. A crackdown that leads to large numbers of casualties would be devastating and have dire consequences for future Thai stability, something the government is mindful of. It may explain the hesitation in ordering the crackdown, but after 2 months of confrontation, Thailand is now hovering between peace and bloodshed, and it could go either way. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera, Bangkok.
Well, Tim Forsyth is a specialist in Southeast Asia at the Development Studies Institute, which is part of the London School of Economics. Thanks very much indeed for joining